Everyone, oh, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Get my video on. Can everybody see me okay? Give me a wave if you can see me. Oh yeah, hi everyone. Oh, it's really nice to see everyone's smiling faces. That's a little bit different. It's usually just my face taking up the screen. How good is that? Oh, it is so good to have you all here on the call today. I know that scheduling our days at the moment has become a little bit weird. So I just really appreciate that you've all taken the time to come along for a chat today. And I would love to know where you're all dialing in from. So if you could all pop in the chat box where you're here from today, that would be fantastic. Here's everyone here from today. Calburn, Sydney. Oh yeah, it's not even just New Zealand. This is a trans-Tasman conversation. What a world we live in 2020. Melbourne, Parramatta, Paeroa, Kapiti, Upper Hutt. Oh, we've got a strong Wellington contingent. Wanganui, Christchurch, that's my hometown. Kia ora Otatahi. Petone. Oh, what a wonderful Wellington contingent we've got here. We are definitely punching above our weight geographically on the call today. Oh, the EOC in Wellington. Wow. Hi, Sean. Great to have you here. Can only begin to imagine what the vibe is like in the EOC today. Home in Upper Hutt. Okay, raise your hand if you are dialing in from home. Okay, so my intention for that question was actually to use the raise hand feature, but I've just realized that that's not a feature on a meeting, just on a webinar. So for those of you who raised their hands, I can't buy. That is fantastic. Okay, everyone, look, it is so great to have you here today, and it's a really interesting environment to be having a conversation like this. So, like, I sat down to plan this last night, and I looked at the title for the webinar, and we're talking about dialing into opportunity, yeah? And so I wrote that down at the top of my page, dialing into opportunity, and then I thought, oh, can I say that? Is that right? And I feel like I'm doing that for about every third thing that comes out of my mouth at the moment. And I had this sort of moment of doubt, and I thought, it's talking about dialing into opportunity. Is that yuck? Like, is that exploitative, or is it trying to make lemons out of lemonade? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it certainly felt like there was a seismic shift in the world and what feels good and what's appropriate yesterday. And it's really hard not to put that second guessing layer on everything. But where I got to with that thought was that, you know, this stuff is happening whether we do anything or not, right? So the world around us is shifting at a pace and in a way that I don't think any of us have ever experienced before. And for my friend in Otatahi, I lived in Christchurch for the earthquakes, for both the September and February earthquakes. And I remember feeling a little bit like that then, but this particular feeling it's new, it's unique. And so that's all happening out there, no matter what, right? And I think it's really helpful to focus, not to ignore that, not for a second, but I think it's really helpful to focus on what we have got a bit of control over. And I think that's where some of the opportunity is here, is to think about what it is that we can do and we've got available to us, and what our new normal might start to look like. And so what I'm really interested in doing, and I did this same exercise at the start of a training session that I ran last week. If I was to give you a scale of 2 to 10, we don't do zeros here. If I was to give you a scale of 2 to 10, and 10 was, hell yeah, I'm feeling bloody good, I think that this is actually something that presents real opportunity for the world, and I'm optimistic, and I'm feeling on top of things. And 2 was like absolute despair. Where would you be at? Pop in the chat box where you're at on a scale of about 2 to 10. Because I reckon at the moment I'm probably about a 7, and I reckon I'm swinging between about a 3 and an 8, maybe 12 to 15 times a day. So between 2 and 10, if a 2 is absolute despair and a 10 is hell yeah, I'm feeling on top of things. Where's everyone at right now? Okay. I mean, the highest I've seen is a 7 so far. Me and you, Adele, we're on the level. 5, 5, 6, 4, 6.5. Okay, we've got a lot of 5s and 6s. I feel like that's not a bad result, actually. Given we're, a lot of 6s. Okay. More 6. Okay, so we have a lot of 6s here. And I think looking at the spread in the chat of where everyone's at, the range sits between about a 4 and a 7. That's not bad. On Friday, I had everything from a 3.5 to a 9, which was an interesting room to run. And I think what that means, or what it makes me think as someone running a conversation like this, is that it's really important to meet people where they're at the moment, but we don't know exactly where people are at. And they could be anywhere on the spectrum. And if we're thinking about how to communicate with people inside that spectrum, I think there's a little bit of be kind and be engaged and be tapped in. But I think there's also a little bit of permission here to go, we might not get it right. And that's where I got to when I was thinking about this conversation last night was, there's a chance that I'm not going to reach everyone tomorrow, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. And if there are people that leave today with a bit of a golden nugget of something they can take away and feel better about, I'm going to feel like I've done my job. So that's where we're at today. Now, yesterday afternoon was, it was quite an experience. And you know how for 9/11 and the Christchurch earthquakes, everybody couldn't remember exactly where they were when they found out what had happened? Where were you all at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon? Can you chuck that in the chat box really quickly for me while I tell you where I was? I had Nikki, and so Nikki's on the call. Give us a wave, Nikki. I had Nikki at my house yesterday. At my house, and she's not even in my family. Isn't that ridiculous already? I had her at my house yesterday morning, and we were having a bit of a strategy session about what our next 6 weeks looks like in the practice. And we'd stopped for a short break, and I was making an omelette. And I just don't think I'm going to forget that that's what I was doing. I was making an omelette. So I was in the kitchen making an omelette. And Nikki said, "Oh, Jacinda's on." And so I turned the element off on the omelette to hear what the Prime Minister had to say. And we all stopped and walked and stood in front of the laptop screen and watched that announcement. Where were you guys? Okay, at home. Who was at the chocolate shop? Oh, Sean, I should show you my chocolate stash. You are so on my wavelength, mate. I've got about 9 blocks of chocolate sitting in the cupboard. At home, out having got a haircut. Quite a few of you working from home. Makes sense. A few of us at work. Yeah, working at home. Yeah, so a lot of us are in the same situation. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm going to remember for some time where I was yesterday. But so I had this afternoon, we had this announcement, and like many of you, within a short period of time, I then had to race away and pick up my kids from school and be ready to kind of, here we go. So I saw my 9-year-old come out of school and wait she's 10 now, as of this week, right at the other side of the road, and I just sort of grabbed her, I don't know how many of you were grabbing your kids with fervour yesterday, but I certainly was. And that morning, I had sent an email to Auckland Council, and we were originally booked to run some strategy training at the council this Thursday and Friday, and we'd had a bit of a planning meeting about it this time last week. How are we going to manage? What's our plan A, plan B, plan C?
And at that point in time, it felt quite reasonable to say, yeah, we'll definitely come to Auckland no matter what the situation is. And if people can't attend or aren't comfortable attending, they can dial in. I mean, that seems ridiculous now, but I think a week in our current time frame is probably about 6 months if you're using like the dog years conversion. So it was reasonable then. So anyway, we'd sent an email yesterday morning saying, hey, we've made the decision to shift all of our workshops, training and conversations online. We're really excited about what we can offer here because we've put a lot of work into setting up some great tools and some great technology, and we actually think there's probably some real advantages here. We think that if we are having shorter, denser, more frequent conversations that are recordable, that people will be able to embed their learning differently and engage more personally, because there's something quite nice about having eye contact like this with someone rather than someone being at the front of the room. And we'd love to talk about moving our training with your policy people into an online space. And so I'd sent that in the morning, and by yesterday afternoon, certainly wasn't expecting to get a response, but I got this email from Marika at Auckland Council just after 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and it really moved me. And it wasn't until late last night when I was thinking about this webinar that I was kind of able to articulate what it was about this email that had moved me. And so I'd love to share this with you. So I'm just going to pop that up on the screen now. So can everybody see my screen? Just give me a wee thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yeah, cool. So I got this email from Marika, and she'd said, hey, look, your approach sounds great. We've had a chat internally, and it sounds like something that actually we're keen to go ahead with. But given what's happened this afternoon, we're going to have to change the dates on that. But there was something about this particular paragraph that I've outlined and read, where she said, look, by postponing, we can give our training attendees time to settle into their new normal with their families. But we're committed to supporting this activity and our suppliers when they need it. And we also believe that this training will be a great relief in a week or two. And so I read this email on my phone. My ex-husband was here. We were doing a bit of a family emergency plan for how we're going to manage with the kids for the next few weeks. And I checked this email and just kind of stopped and went, oh, wow, that's really great. And I was talking to my partner last night about what it was that had been so moving about that email. And I think what I came to was there's something in it about the clarity of what's important that I found to be really inspiring and really encouraging. So to hear a conversation framed like, we've talked about this and we're committed at council to supporting our people and to supporting our suppliers right now, was a very clear statement of we've decided that those things matter and those are things that we can control or have influence over in an uncertain environment. And I thought, wow, that's real leadership, to have had that conversation and decided what matters the most that we can get our hands on at the moment. And also this idea that what people will need today and what people will need in a couple of weeks' time will be different, and how we should be thinking about that. And I think what really touched me about that email was seeing others looking out for their people. Because I've had a few really good interactions this week where I've watched people being good, and that's been great. I went into Porirua this morning and I needed to pick up, well, here's the nerd story. I needed to panic buy important supplies for the next 4 weeks, which included Post-it notes, wine, craft supplies for my children, an extra iPad, all the critical stuff. But I went into Porirua this morning and I was expecting bedlam. You know, like I went to go to New World yesterday afternoon and I took one look at people's faces in the car park and just went, nope, not going in there. And so when I went into Porirua this morning, I thought, all right, this is going to be hard, and I was steeling myself to be ready to handle the chaos. And everywhere I went, everybody was calm and kind and moving a little bit slower and smiling at each other. And I was kind of blown away by that. So I've seen a lot of this in the last few days, and it's extremely encouraging. And what I really want to do is to start a bit of a conversation, I guess, with you all about, what have you seen in the last few days? Do you have an example of seeing someone serve others, be there for their people? Have you seen leadership where you've watched somebody else serve the people around them? And I would love to hear any stories and examples you've got about that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to split the team that we've got on the call today into a couple of wee breakout rooms so that you can get to know a few others who are on the call today and share some of those stories. So I'll be in and out of those rooms, and I'm just going to open those up for the next few minutes.
The chat rooms aren't working. We're not sure why the options disappeared.
Oh. From the other room, the chat rooms aren't working. Let me have a look. Hey, I'm allowed to do it, so I'm going to do it. So I'm going to split you all into a few different rooms. Hey, look at this. This is tech adaptation on the fly. Cool. So in about 30 seconds, you're going to make some new friends, hopefully. And I would really love for you all to think about some examples, if you've got one, of where you've seen someone else showing up for the people around them, especially in the last few days. You should have a notification to join your rooms popping up on your screen. Just click through. Yeah, good job, guys. Hey, look at us. This is working extremely well.
Hey everybody, we can chat soon. Can you hear me? I can see your face. Who's had a story? Someone had a story sometime they've seen someone being helpful, teaching it.
Up our office yesterday. We've actually closed our office so that we can all come home and physically packed it up, and just the support in the office of getting through a bit of a traumatic day yesterday, really. And there were only 2 of us in the end in the office packing it all up. But yeah, it was just, we just looked after each other.
That's great, Lisa. I've just jumped into to eavesdrop on everyone's conversation in breakout room 2. What a lovely story. Does anyone else have a good example?
They're a quiet wee bunch.
How have we gotten here, guys? So we've got Lisa. Oh, Chris is having a bit of a tough time with his internet. Oh, hi, Jade. It's lovely to see you. How are you?
Hello, good, thank you.
Have you got any examples to share from the last couple of days where you've seen people just being a great human for others?
I think for our organisation, I work for the same organisation as Lisa, but over the last week or so, we've just connected well together more than ever before. I'm based in Sydney, so I don't get to spend a lot of time with my colleagues in New Zealand, but I've actually spoken to them more over the past week than I probably have over the past sort of 6 months. So I think that's really positive.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that at a time that we are distancing, some of us are actually finding more connection in some areas?
Yeah, we have as consultants, we've sort of not been able to work together, you know, due to cost of flying and things like that. But now I've got a workshop that I need to deliver for a council in Western Australia, and I can now still co-deliver that with my colleagues in New Zealand. So,
oh, how good is that?
Got to stay positive and make it work.
Yeah. Where do you guys work?
We work for a company called Bremen Solutions. So we work with councils across Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, nice. Oh, we might be hanging out with similar people. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. I was really, I mean, I think things are slightly different in New Zealand than they are in Australia, depending on where you are. So I'm not sure if you're totally across. I think I made some assumptions at the outset in my introduction today, but we go into full lockdown tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the announcement yesterday was you've got 48 hours and then don't leave your house, basically. Yeah. And it's been really interesting here. And I think, I'm not sure whether I was overly negative about the public, but I just expected things to be worse than they were. So maybe that says something about me, I don't know. But it was a really heartwarming experience today to see everybody just moving away from each other and sharing a smile or cracking a joke at the supermarket about something that had sold out, and just really that connection. It's great, isn't it? Yeah, lovely. All right, we might see how everyone's got on in their chats, and I'll see if I can. This is the first time, let me be totally honest with you on this one. This is the first time I've used a breakout room situation with this many people on a call at once. So I'm hoping desperately that it all works. But what can we do but just give it a crack, am I right?
That's right.
Okay, so I will check in and see how everybody else is going on their chat. Now, Chris, who else have we got in here? Chris, Azim. Oh, it's so nice to have you both, and Helen. If you are struggling with your internet connection, is there any chance that you could share in the chat with us and any examples that you've got? Because I think it's really nice if we can combine a few different versions here. The setup I've got, if my video looks a bit strange, talking about trialing new tech, the setup I have in my house today, which we're trialing for our new studio, is that I've got my laptop to my right, which is why you'll see me looking down. And then I've got a couple of really good cameras set up so that the video quality is a bit better. So I've got to look into the camera in order to be able to make eye contact with you guys. Can you see the difference in the video quality? Is that working?
Yeah, it's really good quality.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's good. We thought it was worth, and I'm mic'd up as well, because we thought it was worth, first things first, if we want to be online, we should go for top-notch video and audio. So it's all a bit of an experiment. We're building the airplane while we're flying it, but hopefully this
How
is
familiar is that, Jade?
I think we're all in the same boat. I think we're all in the same boat, aren't we? Okay. Let's see how we're going. Wow. One more minute, everyone. Check that out, and hopefully that should pop up in your chat box. I'm not 100% sure how that works. Right, I might pop into another chat, and then I'll give us all a 60-second notice. I'll see you all back shortly. I can see you all coming back in. Oh, haven't seen you for a while, Jade. Nice to see you. Hi, Lisa. Nice to have you back. Hi, Tanya. How are you? You're muted, but I did see you mouth. Good, thank you. We're good. Oh, it's nice to see everybody coming back in. Hey, guys. Anyone not back with us? Oh, we've got 13 seconds. If anyone's having a great chat, it's going to have to be wrapped up fast. Oh, nice work, team. Oh, cool. Okay. So hopefully that was a useful chat. I'm already feeling a little bit more connected and a little bit, just a little bit warmer for the wonderful chat that I just had with Lisa and Jade. And we were reflecting on the fact that, ironically, even though many of us seem to be further apart physically than ever before, there's something about all of this that we're doing, that, and all of the communication that we need to be having to organise ourselves, where in some ways we're more connected to people than we were before. Is anyone else feeling that? Chuck yes in the chat box if you've had a bit of that. All right. Okay, so I'm hearing that Dave Spence has a good story that he'd like to share, and I would absolutely love to hear it. So I'm hoping, Nikki, that you can unmute Dave, if you don't mind sharing, Dave. What's an example where you've seen someone being there for others that you'd like to share with us?
I think for me, it was a spontaneous usage of social media and Facebook groupings to support the community. So in Upper Hutt, we've got a group that's established itself called caremongering. And so that's a mechanism for the needy to identify what their needs are, and people to volunteer to contribute to the well-being of all. So, you know, for example, Red Cross were looking for people to deliver Meals on Wheels. So that was a mechanism in which it was utilised, and I think it's really valuable in terms of how quickly it got up and got established, and also in terms of the traffic that's occurring on that website.
That's a wonderful story, Dave, because it's very much about that. Hey, in a crisis, we can be quite good at zeroing in on exactly what matters right now, and finding our way to be part of it. And so I talk a bit about getting shit done. And I reckon there's nothing better than a crisis for people to get shit done. That is a wonderful story, Dave. Caremongering, by the way. Like, how good is that for a word? Oh, okay. And I'd also love to hear, if you don't mind, Tony. I'd love to hear from Tony about the story that you shared in the breakout room. Just throwing to you, Nikki, if you could unmute Tony, please. Do you mind sharing with us what your example was?
Yeah, so I'm situated in Canberra, Australia. So in and around our area, during the fires that we had, you know, another small crisis that we've gone through, there was a lot of fridges and cupboards set up in some of the communities that allowed the fireys to pick up food, drink, and bits and pieces. They're now starting to convert to being little shared stores, so having toilet paper, tissues, sanitizers in them. And the other thing that's changed in a couple of suburbs in Canberra itself is a few of the public libraries, street libraries, the little boxes converted to libraries on the street corner, are now carrying a few extra items in them, along with the books, which has really been quite helpful. Probably one of the best things I've seen happen here at the moment.
Oh, that is fantastic. And I remember, how many of you were in Christchurch around the time of the earthquakes? Just pop a quick yes in the chat box if you were in Christchurch around the time of the earthquakes, 2010, 2011. Yeah, cool. So I'm not the only one. And what I remember feeling after the earthquakes, and for those of you who weren't in Christchurch then, but remember and are in New Zealand and remember a year ago how things felt after the shootings, also in Christchurch. Tough time, tough place to be the last few years in Christchurch, my hometown. You get this real sense of, what can I do? And it can be a little bit overwhelming or a little bit frustrating, I think, when it's not intuitive to understand exactly what we can do. Does anyone else experience that sense of, God, I just want to do something right now? Pop yes if that resonates with you. Yeah, cool. Not just me feeling that way. And when it comes to thinking clearly and thinking strategically and dialing into our environment and what the potential opportunities are in that environment, that sense of what can I do, that seems to be quite a gut instinct that we have, I think is really powerful and really important. And I'd really like to share some thinking with you that I have around this. And just track to this one here, and you guys can all give me the thumbs up when you can see my screen. Do you have a blank white screen in front of you, everyone? Just give me a thumbs up if you do. Yeah, cool. So what I think is a less than useful, much less useful than the what can I do, instinct that we have in a crisis situation where things move quickly, is we have this tendency to go into survival mode. And the thing about survival mode is it's quite good at keeping us alive, but it's very reactive and it's very short term. And that's why we see panic buying, right? So everyone's thinking, what do I need right now in my panic for the next few days? I can't have everybody else getting all the toilet paper. Everything's gone to shit. See what I did there? Bit of a pun. And that reactive tendency we have is really normal, but not always entirely useful. And so I imagine that most of you will be familiar with this kind of common distinction we make between being reactive and being proactive. And I think we talk about that a lot. And I think that that is a useful distinction to make, the difference between making short-term decisions based on instinct and survival, and the difference between being intentional. But I think there's another level that sits below reactive. Reactive gets a bad rap. The thing about reactive is you're active, you are doing something. And in times when things are shifting quickly and the stakes are high, I genuinely believe that doing something is better than doing nothing. So below reactive, I think we have a change response for decision making, whether that's at work or whether it's personally, where we're passive. And when we're passive, we tend to use language like, I can't. This is the language of constraints. It's where we think about what it might be like to be in isolation for 4 weeks, or to work from home, or to try and make progress or continue to work on something. We just go, I can't imagine working from home. I can't do it. And it's disempowering language, and it's unhelpful, and it's constraint focused. So at least when we're being reactive, we are taking action. And when we're being reactive, we tend to use language like, I have to. Has anyone heard a bit of I have to in the last couple of days or in the last week? I have to work from home. I have to self-isolate. I have to cancel this meeting. See some chats popping up. Yeah, a bit of I have to. Oh, have I canned my slides on you? That's not helpful, is it? There we are. And I think the problem with being reactive and the problem with framing our decisions in an I have to lens is that we've given up a whole lot of our power. So rather than what can I do, it's what do I have to do? And it doesn't feel very good. But when we're being proactive, we can tell when we're being proactive or when the people around us are being proactive, because we tend to hear language like, I choose to, I'm going to, I get to. I read an article once about a year ago that talked about how powerful it is at home and at work to replace the phrase I have to with I get to. And I tried it for about a week because I was a bit skeptical. It sounded a bit woo-woo to me. And so every time I went to say something like, I have to cook dinner, or I have to hang the washing out, I would say, I get to cook dinner. And it was astonishing to me, the immediate shift in the way that I thought about what I was doing as soon as I said I get to. And the point of that language shift is about gratitude. And that's really important, right? So I get to cook dinner. Oh, because I'm at home with my children. I've got food to cook under a secure roof. It's not so bad, is it? But the thing about reactive to proactive and moving from I have to I choose to is that we've taken some ownership and we've taken some agency, and we've focused on the things that we can choose to do. And if we think about caremongering, or we think about street libraries, or we think about rescheduling training for 2 weeks' time, the common thread that runs through all of those examples is about people choosing to make decisions in their sphere of influence. And so I think the first step, if we want to dial into what a new normal could look like and what our opportunities are here to make progress or do something good or create some value or support others, is about what we choose to do. But just like there's a level below passive, I also think that there's a behaviour beyond proactive. I think we can aim a little bit higher than proactive. And I like to call that level, there's a hidden one. There's a hidden one. Hey, has anyone got any of these? I'm going to skip past this real quick because I don't want to be too negative. I'm going to tell you a secret, and I don't usually put this in my training workshops on this, but there is a level below passive, and I hate this guy. I don't know if you know this guy, you can pop it in the chat box, but I hate this guy. The level below passive is destructive. And I haven't checked my Facebook for about 5 days because I reckon I know a couple of these guys, and I reckon I don't want to hear what they've got to say right now. They say I won't. And that is a whole lot worse than I can't. Has anyone seen a bit of I won't out there in the last couple of weeks? Pop in the chat box if you've had a bit of I won't. Yeah, we can't stay here because I'm just going to get all pissed off and start ranting, and that's not a useful online conversation for anyone. But there is a level that's worse. But let's flip back to the positive. Beyond proactive, and it is, if we can make it there and we can start being intentional and going, what matters to us at the moment is supporting our teams and supporting our suppliers. So here's our decision, like Marika did. Or what matters to us right now is connecting our neighbourhoods and making sure that vulnerable people aren't disadvantaged any further than they have to be. So let's get some volunteers together. If we can do that, we've come a long way. We've tipped over that line. We're above the line. We're attention out, and we're able to start dialing in to each other and to opportunity. But beyond proactive, there's another level that I like to call adaptive. And I don't expect that any of us become perfectly adaptive this week. I think Marika's email was bang on when she said, hey, right now, we need to settle in, right? We need to get our shit together and figure out what this means for us. But we're pretty resilient humans. And soon we're going to be looking for how we adapt, how we embrace a new way of working to do good stuff. And I think that's where this adaptive reflex starts kicking in. And the kind of language that we use, and there's a real shift in this language when we get to adaptive, because it's not just the verb that's changing. It's not just what you have to do or choose to do. We're talking here about trying and learning, but it switches from an I to a we. Can you see how powerful that is? So it's great what we choose to do in our sphere of influence. But if we think about the examples that we've used today about witnessing others, serving others, that wasn't about I. That was about we. And it wasn't just about what we're doing, it's what we're trying and it's what we're learning. And I think there's real power in that. So Nietzsche talks about this concept of loving your fate. And loving your fate seems like a pretty lofty goal when right now our fate seems a bit bleak. But Nietzsche's idea, and I just love it, is the idea that things are happening anyway. The world around us is changing no matter what we do, whether we're destructive, passive, proactive, the world around us is moving. And we can choose how we respond to that. And that's that proactive level, right? We can choose how we respond to that. And if we do get that choice, why don't we just love it? Not just handle it, not just cope with it, not just put up with it. What if we just loved our fate? And I don't want to be disingenuous or talk about making lemons from lemonade or make things seem rosy when they are clearly not. But what if we experimented with the idea? What if we tried? What if we learned? If we were adaptive together? and thought about what it might be like if we loved our fate. My 14-year-old used the word staycation yesterday. You want to talk about loving your fate? She went, yes, no school. And then she went, staycation. And I think that was a really beautiful example of what if we just loved it? And the best version of my team here, when we're not just sort of like gripping each other in fear, which we can't do anymore because that's not socially responsible or physically distant. But the best version of my team here, we go, hey, what if doing all of our work online and having conversations like this was better than having to fly a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of carbon miles to sit in a room for 8 hours and talk? What if we could do it in a way that was actually better? What would that look like? And so we're trying and we're learning a whole new way of doing that, which I'm pretty sure we're going to screw up at some point, because that's how this works, right? That's what learning is. But when we can tap into that adaptive version, it feels pretty good. And I don't think we can spend all our time there. I don't think it's reasonable that we spend all our time there. But I don't think it's a bad goal when we're thinking about dialing in to opportunity and a new way of working. So I'd love to hear if you've got any reflections about what being adaptive or trying or learning would look like in your work life or in your personal life. If that's triggered anything for you, I would love to hear what that is. So what I'm going to do, and we're just going to do this for another few minutes because I know you've all made friends now, and it would be awful if you didn't get to say a goodbye to your new mates. I'm going to chuck you into breakout rooms just for a few minutes to have a quick chat with each other about what that conversation has brought up for you, if you're thinking about the way that you respond to change. So let's see if I can do this even faster. We're adapting, we're trying, we're learning than we did last time. You should have an invitation to join back into your breakout rooms now. And if I've done it correctly, you'll be in the same one. And if I've done it incorrectly, I seem to have done it incorrectly, then you won't. Let's have a go.
Yeah, we're like everybody, we're moving into the whole, we provide training as one of our services, and we now have to do it remotely. So just even using this product, both Jade, who is a work colleague, and I are both going, we need this product.
Yeah, totally. I was just thinking.
Apart from anything else, that's very useful to see different products.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we've got our fearless leader on the call as well.
Hi, Kylie. How are you?
I'm good, Alicia. Nice to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you. Do you know, how nice is it to have this many people in a phone call and to feel like we're genuinely meeting each other? How good is this?
Yeah, totally. It's I feel connected, like my heart feels warm. And like I'm not just sitting in my office full of Post-it notes on my own. So thank you.
Honestly, look at your wall. Oh God,
it's beautiful.
I wish I could move my camera, but if you see behind me, I did.
The true signs of a design thinker.
Yeah, well, like I say, I went to Warehouse Stationery this morning and just went, what if I ran out of Post-it notes and desk pads?
Yeah.
And so I'm all stocked up. I was thinking about starting a social media hashtag that was, what is the weird stuff that you've found yourself going to stock up on any of this? And so ours was like cables, Post-it notes. My 5-year-old is supposed to be having a birthday party, my almost 5-year-old this weekend. She can't. And I was like, I have to get sprinkles because if I can't even give her fairy bread, like,
Like, I know,
What is
right?
this?
you're
I
reading
need sprinkles, I
Yeah.
need protein bars. Like, it was such a weird collection of stuff.
Yeah, good whiteboard markers was what I pillaged from work yesterday.
Oh, I've been really
and,
bitter about the fact that I didn't get my hands on some big jumbo whiteboard markers ahead of this, and who knows when I can get jumbo whiteboard markers now.
Who knows?
Hey, so
we
that chat
had
about proactive to adaptive, did that throw anything up for you?
for me personally,
Yeah.
Massive. Just copious notes, I think, from all of the discussion. But we've got, I think the big thing that was running through my mind and the challenges that I've had at the moment is the panic and the fear that's sitting in our operational teams. So how you bring leadership that is, at the moment, I feel maybe exhibiting one step moved from our people's reality. So when you talked about meeting them at their point that they're at now, we've got a gap there. So that's probably the first thing that was springing to mind. The second was people need action to feel in control, right? I think that's the moment that you're helpless and don't feel like you can do anything, you can spiral. So how do we, the questions that were springing up were, how do we maintain momentum for the things that need to kind of just keep running under the radar without dealing with immediate crisis, because we'll end up in another crisis in 6 or 8 weeks, all off business as usual type.
I love how you said,
but that's not suggesting that the priorities aren't right.
Control. That is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, well, just in control of their own world, right? Like, otherwise, if they feel like they're relinquishing control of everything in their own space to outside forces, then that sense of purpose and, that clarity, even just in day-to-day goals that they need to get through for themselves, I think that's probably the big thing that's running through my mind. And how you take that, in my case, obviously, how we take a leadership team through on Thursday, actually the reality of meeting their people in that place, responding, your email was absolutely perfect, how do we just kind of just allow people time to breathe and process, and then provide some relief slowly over the next couple of weeks, but allow people to respond. So there were a couple of things that were springing up for me.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing, Kylie. And I think you used the word certainty a couple of times, and it seems like a strange word to use at the moment when things are so uncertain. But actually, I feel like yesterday's announcement from the Prime Minister added just a bit, didn't it?
It totally did.
Yeah, where we went, if nothing else, we know now what our next 4 weeks looks like. So we can do something with that. And that grabbing onto something and then seeing our own opportunities for action, there's really something in that. Sean, you're joining us from the EOC in Wellington. What a place to be. Did that conversation throw up anything for you, Sean?
There we go. So we've got all sorts of challenges. So the biggest one was we accelerated the mobility of council. So suddenly, within 3 days, 1,600 people went to cloud-based working with laptops and all the rest of it, which was a big dislocation, but we managed it and everybody's functioning properly. The difficulty we have now is we have a core of officers who are termed essential services. And then we've got the majority of the organisation which are not. The problem with that language is you're telling people who want to do something that they're no longer essential. It's not my language.
Good call.
So that's so true.
So what we've had to do is effectively divide the organisation as it's reshaped. We've very quickly ramped up a whole lot of training, a whole lot of tasks that are important, particularly for people's personal development, that are much more self-paced. Those people are doing those, and then as my part of council generates the tasks and the jobs that need doing, then they can be taken across, and that's what's giving us the ability to scale in a constructive way.
Wow, what a point you just made about essential and non-essential. When we use words like essential, what message are we sending to everybody else who desperately wants to contribute and wants to connect to purpose in their work and is now considering themselves non-essential? That's really powerful, Sean. I'd actually really like you to share that with the main group when we go back. Would you be comfortable doing that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, it's a little bit challenging because we're adapting and learning our online environment here, and my partner's in the other room. I know he's in a breakout room. It's interesting not having full visibility of all the breakout rooms, knowing where everyone else's conversation is at. So when you're facilitating at the front of a room, you can kind of get a feel for, it's like popcorn with the more pops in the microwave, and then the pops get longer and longer, and then you go, okay, it's time to pull it out now. The pops are far enough apart. I kind of can't gauge the pops from here. So I'm like, I wonder where everyone else is at. So that will be an interesting one. So I'm going to do the really rude thing of just putting the 60-second thing on, which hopefully worked okay last time. And then we've all got 60 seconds. Hey, Chris, you made it. Look at you. It's so nice to see you. Just unmute you for a second. How's it all going, buddy?
Yeah, it's going great. Just panic everywhere. So we're trying to mitigate everything. Yeah. I was just saying, in our breakout session, something like this has never happened in our LGA. And now that it has, we're so reactive, but we're learning how to become proactive. So, so here we go.
Oh, that is such a good reflection, Chris. And I see everyone's joining us now. I was just saying in the breakout room that I was in, when you're at the front of a room and you can see that there are multiple discussions happening in a big room, you can kind of gauge when the conversation's starting to taper and it's time to come back. And I was thinking about it just now off the top of my head. It's like when you make microwave popcorn and you have to get it out when the gaps between pops are getting longer and longer, and you can't wait till the pops are all gone because you've burnt your popcorn. But if you can get it out just at the right point, and I'm finding it hard to gauge the pops when I can't hear all the conversations at once. Oh, very good. Now, I would really love, I'd love to hear a couple of the examples from the conversations you were just having, because I don't know how yours were, but the conversations I just had were gold, and there was so much in it. Kylie was talking about how important it is to take action to feel in control. So you've got to get on that active part of the ladder just to feel like you've got some control. And I just went, oh, yeah, I can feel that. And I thought that was beautiful. And she also talked a little bit about, she used the word certainty, which seems like almost a funny word to use at the moment. But what I certainly felt yesterday after the announcement from our Prime Minister was like I had a little bit to grab onto to start making decisions from. And I often say when I talk about responding to change that people aren't afraid of change, but they're bothered by uncertainty. And even in the most uncertain of operating environments, if we can give something to grab onto and just provide a modicum of certainty, it makes all the difference in the way that we respond to change. And I think that the way that we were feeling in our breakout chat and thinking about the announcement yesterday is certainly a reflection of that. But I'm really keen actually to throw to Sean. So Sean O'Dane is currently based in the Emergency Operations Centre here in Wellington, and he had a really interesting insight about the language we're using and some of the challenges we're facing, which I'd love for everybody else to hear.
Oh, right. So the challenge we have is the City Council has to very quickly change shape. And during that change of shape, we divide in half. So there are a bunch of us that are termed essential workers, and then there are a bunch of us who are not. The problem is all that work is important, and that essential, those people who are termed non-essential have a role to play in the city, but we've been given language which is quite disempowering. And so one of the ways we've had to combat that is reminding people that they're delivering on a strategic need. we're delivering on a tactical one. We just have to do our stuff quick. That doesn't mean it's any more important. The other thing we've done is, as we've moved thousands of staff across to, hundreds of staff across to mobile working, we've given them buddies, self-paced learning, online platforms, getting all that stuff they need for their professional development that's relatively self-paced done. They still have expectations on them. And then that gives people like me time to start tasking them and figuring out what we need to do.
Thank you for sharing, Sean. As soon as you said, when we talk about essential services and essential jobs, what are we saying for those that aren't? I went, oh yeah. Because we all need, just like our caremongering group, just like our libraries, we all need to be able to tap into our own sense of contribution. So getting on the action part of the ladder matters, but tapping into that contribution is what makes the difference between being attention in and down here and being attention out and actually dialing in. And that is I'm talking about dialing in, but in many ways it's really about dialing out, isn't it? And thinking about things like, what is the language that we're using? How are people feeling when we talk about essential and not essential? I think that's really powerful. And I'm loving what I'm seeing in the chat around terminology, around going straight to adaptive, getting counsellors on, using Zoom who would have used to use agendas. God, there's something in that, isn't there? There's something about a burning platform where if you used to be at the destructive or the passive end and that's not an option for some things anymore, just getting new things done, right? Like if you had any resistance before to having a video chat, sorry, mate, this is us. So, and I've thought about that with air travel too, where I've had a few conversations with people about, yeah, in the next decade, we're probably going to see some real change to air travel and we won't be able to do it as much anymore. And we all nod sagely and then jump on a plane. And now it's like, you're not going anywhere. So this stuff had to happen anyway. So I think that's great. Look, I hope that your breakout discussions were as rewarding as mine were. And I mean, we are definitely adapting and learning around here at the moment. And some of this stuff, maybe it's a little bit new, but I'm really buoyed by the way that people are showing up to these kind of conversations. And I genuinely think we just need to keep talking. And I don't know if you've seen that meme about the difference between social distancing and physical distancing are not the same thing. Let's be physically distant, but socially more connected than ever. And I think there's something in that, not just socially, but in our teams as well. Because it gets hard fast when you're on your own. You can be as adaptive and proactive in the morning when you wake up as you like, but it gets hard when you're on your own. And the more that we can connect to a shared sense of contribution, and the more that we are empowered to make choices about how we can serve others, and not use unhelpful terminology like non-essential, the better. So I wanted to close today, and I'll see if I can just chuck that wee slideshow up again for you. And I don't know how many of you have seen this picture floating around. I got it on LinkedIn. About the power of social distancing, and I was thinking about it last night when we were talking about this email from Marika and how amazing it was to see that shift from not just what do I need or what does everybody else need, but for me to sit there and watch somebody else serve and realize that little decisions that we can make in our team or the way that we can communicate with our clients can hopefully then trigger a response at the next level that then triggers a decision at a larger level. That's quite powerful. That's quite exponential. And then I thought, shit, this is the whole thing we're in, isn't it? This is the nature of what we're learning. And this graphic about the power of social distancing, where it goes, look, you might affect one person or two people, but the exponential impact of all of us doing that is going to be what makes or breaks how successful we are and our suppression and our control of this thing. And extending that metaphor to think that the small decisions that might feel small, especially if we're not essential, you're all essential. You're essential to me. The small decisions that we make that are inside our control and the way that we choose to show up and what we choose to dial into and dial out to don't just affect the people that we're connected with directly. the combined action, even small ones, of all of us taking a step and trying to channel when we hear ourselves, because I hear it coming out of my mouth. I have to do this, I have to do that. As soon as we hear that kind of language, we can take a step back and encourage ourselves to move above that line. It's not just the people we talk to or the people in our house that are affected by that. It creates a domino effect, it creates a chain. And so I think this week, for where we're at right now, dialing in really means dialing out. I'm so glad that you were all able to attend today, and I just loved seeing all of your beautiful faces and having this beautiful kōrero with all of you. It's a crazy 24 hours ahead of us next, as we, well, for those of us in New Zealand, but for all of us, I think, as we shift into a totally new way of existing. So I just wanted to say thank you for your presence and thank you for your contribution. Stay safe out there, everyone. See you all again soon. Ka kite.